Welcome students, welcome to this next video lecture. As usual we have been studying business communication. So this is the lecture 7, that is intercultural communication. So today we will discuss about this intercultural communication. Again we have already discussed the same content, okay, and some part we will revise in this current video. So we have talked about the about intercultural communication. A little bit of of introduction has been given to you about intercultural communication. Today we will continue with the theories that were introduced to you, that I mentioned in the last class, and today we will discuss those theories exclusively and their application to international business. Keep in mind, these are the theories that we are going to study and its application to international business. The one thing I must mention here is these theories are value based theories, and I want you to keep thinking about the application of these theories as we go along, and we will discuss them in the next class. But throughout the class I would like to focus on how these theories are related to your daily life. So let us begin with a little bit of a revision. We talked about intercultural communication. We talked about the significance of intercultural communication. We discussed Samour and Porter definition of intercultural communication or culture. We discussed what culture mean, what intercultural mean, what intercultural communication mean. So we also discussed what makes us different from each other. And the one thing that I must remind you again is that when we talk about culture, we are not talking exclusively about geographical boundaries. We are not talking exclusively about community. We are talking about whatever makes us who we are. So, and I would like to go back to the slides in the previous lecture where we talked about how we are different from each other. We talked about some ideological differences again. As a reminder, these differentials are, when we say ideological differences, these are differences in the way we think, in the way our thought, our value system influence our behavior. We talked about cultural identity and intercultural competence, and we also talked about cultural clashes. So the cultural framework that we will discuss today are the one by Hofstede, Schwartz, then Trompenaars, the Globe Study, the studies on the institutional distance by Zhu Gore, 2004. Now let us begin with Hofstede. Before I do that, let me this inform you where all of these are coming from. Professor Edward T. Hall had discussed the idea about high and low context culture, and these discussion are based on cultural value. Cultural values represent, according to this, is from a paper by professional Schwartz that will take here. So according to Professor Schwartz, cultural values represent the impressively or expressively shared upset ideas about what is right and desirable in a society. I will repeat, cultural values represent the impressively or expressively shared upset ideas about what is good, right, and desirable in a society. And these cultural values for the basis for this specific name, the people, what is appropriate in various situations. Now, again, to clarify, these are the things that help us decide between right and wrong, good and bad, appropriate and inappropriate, what happened and what doesn't, where should I go, how should I react to the particular situation. And these are rooted in anthropological discussion. So these are rooted in experiences that community has had over the year, and this could be a factor of defend or influenced by the access of community to resources. This could be influenced by the thing that you could relate them to all these values and ideologies to some extent, to Darwin's theory of survival of the fittest. Also some point, I know there are lots of criticism of that theory, but some stage, if it is how people learn to live and survive and function and decide on what was effective within their resources with the people who share the same space with them, either mentally or physically. And these are the things that help people come up with their own design or come up with their own parameters for deciding what people who thought like them could do, and has mentioned earlier according to the definition by Porter and Samoa. Please hold on for a while. So culture is a product to all of these issues. Okay, values, idea, beliefs, etc. required over generation by people who are shared some part of common space, either physically or by way of what they are do or average thing. So these are the values that decide how we function in different society, and these values have been categorized by these five researchers that are mentioned here. So we are getting the information about culture and its reference to society and how we behave in that society, uh, where we have been following the different cultures. Okay, and which is by these five broad studies that are mentioned here. It is not to say that the other studies do not apply here, but I thought these studies were the most applicable, and this is based on a paper by Magnuson and Associates that was published in 2008. So let us start with the study of Hofstede. Before we begin that, let me give you let me give you uh, before we begin that, let me also give you the basis for this cultural framework. Okay, so now Edward T. Hall came up with the notions of high and low context cultures, and these things also led people to think that there was some sort of emotional involvement or detachment. You know the anthropologist, of course, you know the studies conducted by the anthropologist in the past led future anthropologists to believe that there was some sort of emotional distance, emotional detachment that was going on, that was in turn influencing the manner in which people related to their community, related to their groups, related to the people, their functions with, and one of these things was the psychic distance. By psychic distance, we are not talking about fourth dimension, we are not talking about another dimension in or paranormal activities. We are only talking about the emotional distance that people have, or emotional attachment or detachment these have with respect to certain event and activity in their life and certain people in their life. Okay, and according to Johansson and Wahlen, 1977, in Magnuson and Associate 2008, psychic distance psychic distance is the sum of factors preventing the flow of information and to the market. So the amount of emotional involvement we have, or the amount of emotional detachment we have from the market or from the associates in the market, will determine how the information flows. And this could be differences in language, whether we have interaction with the people who speak a different language, can we speak educational level. I mean, I will interaction with somebody who's very very highly educated or much more educated than we are, or less educated than we are. So for that could increase the distance, the differences in business factors is could be another factor. Industrial development, well developed, very techno-savvy works is absolutely not interested in technology, are not comfortable with technology and culture. And one movie that can be suggested to you here is a movie called Efficiency Expert. It also known by another name, and the name is Spotswood. It's a Hollywood movies. You may get the reference because it may be useful to understand these theories or concepts. And the leading actor is Anthony Hopkins, and it is about hotshot executive who goes somewhere to rural, a small place in rural America, and tries to transform or redesign the functioning of a Magnuson factory in rural America. And it is about his experience and all that, and it's a fictional account. It's a regular Hollywood movie, but it's wonderful movie you may get see afterwards, and it is an excellent movie for anyone who wants to know more about the difference between theoretical and practical aspect of business. We teach theories, and those theories are very value event, but as a student of business, it's honest of be honest of adapting those theories to practical situation that are very unique to each of you who is listening, and like to you. So you are the one who has to decide how to apply these theories, how to take or how to take these these broad technology from for with the help of knowledge, and which teach us very well good knowledge. So what is to take from this broad idea that has been given to you and apply it to realize situation. So psychic distance is something that is exhibited very well in this movie called Stops Wood, or the other name for the that movie is the efficiency expert, and the lead actor is Anthony Hopkins of the Saracens of the land name. So excellent actor, but you will probably enjoy. Okay, so basis of cultural framework, the basis of cultural framework, one more basis of cultural framework that have been proposed by all of these theories is the power distance. And power distance is the extent and acceptance of unequal distribution of power. Distance really means how value accept a vertical organization. One, do you accept a vertical organization? If yes, how comfortable are you with it? Would you feel very comfortable, walking into a boss's office in speaking in your mind, or would you prefer to follow protocol even for the smallest of things? And both vertical and horizontal organizations have their advantage, and these advantages in teams where the deadline is more important. In teams, we finishing a task is more important than making people around you comfortable, or than the overall environment of it is a relative teams. I'm not saying that overall environment of your place is not important. I'm just saying that it's more important to finish the goals that we have a last at the point. And in such things, maybe it could be better to have a more a flatter organization, and that is what really happens. You are all there because of your unique skill set. You are there because you have something exclusive to offer to the team, something exclusive, something very special that the team can use to achieve that goals. And in a vertical organization, the power is distributed in a vertical fashion. It is that is like the inverted triangle, where maximum power is on the top, and the power is less, and the work is more at the bottom. It is not do work, I mean the actual input or decision making capacity is less of the bottom, the power is less of the bottom, the power is centered on the top. And there are very clear boundaries about regarding the amount of power is each functionary of the organization has. So things has the flexible, and that has a small benefit. And one of the benefit that immediately comes to mind is the transparency in the organization. The transparency in the organization, much more than the transparency, it is the accountability of everybody in the organization. You know exactly what you are supposed to do, you know exactly what you are allowed to do. So you are accountable for a certain set of things, and very easily to straight away get to the person and ask them, whether this power use were used or not. Just one of the benefits. There are other benefits are in vertical organization. So these there are very useful in extremely complex societies like India, and especially like rural area. This parts of India is slowly moving to the flatter organization. But again, these things vary. The other things here, I mean, one more thing to remember in power distance. Do you accept this? So different societies have different takes on whether they accept this power distance or not. Some people may feel uncomfortable with it. Some people function best when they have that power distance. when they know exactly where everybody stand in terms of what here she can do, what is allowed to do. So and some people do not really feel very comfortable when is how people are different, and that has an impact on the culture the organization adopts. The next thing here is the institutional distance, and that is ID, institutional distance, and the Kostova in 1966 refers to this as the sum of differences on the three pillars of organizations: the regulative, normative, and cognitive environment, and we will discuss a little later. So let's discuss. We'll discuss about these things afterwards. So uh, let us discuss Hofstede's study. Hofstede conducted a study on uh, 1,17,000 IBM workers, or for the Indian rule it is yes, 1,17,000 IBM workers for the Western rule. We are listening to this. So we have a term lakhs or lakhs, and that is how we read this. Okay. So the study was conducted between 1967 and 1973. Initially, in the first round of the study, 40 countries were targeted, and the final study included is 82 countries. So again, this concept, the brief discussion hmm, of these concepts has been borrowed from the paper written by Magnuson and Associates in the year 2008. Even those information really available on the internet. I'm sure that this some website called hofstede.org, something like that, which clearly which do use a lot of things. But anyway, you may use that, refer that website and get the information about these concepts. So first concept is that individualism and collectivism. That is the first thing that Hofstede found people to be different own. First value that Hofstede let me clear. This is the first thing that Hofstede found people to be different own. First value that the first Hofstede, third people were clearly decided, which side of these the continue we wanted to be earned. So individualism is not selfishness. Individualism is the desire or the belief that uh, if I do my work right, if I'm okay, and it's every individual unit in society is doing whatever they are supposed to do with the best of their ability, the overall environment will do better. Okay, I will repeat here: individualism is not selfishness. Individualism is the desire or the belief that if I do my work right, if I am okay, and it's every individual's unit in society is doing whatever they are supposed to do with the best of their ability, the overall environment will do better, because everybody putting in the best and not really showing their negative side, or not really, they are just for forming to their minimum capacity. So you are emphasized over the group. If I in my group is not doing, if I'm in my group is not doing so well, or if I am individual can contribute more than the average of the group, the average of the group will also right. So that is individualism. Now collectivism is that um, is that I am part of a group, I am part of the environment that I am in, and if I do my work well, and if I remain in how many with the other environment, we will share our resources and we will grow. So the group, the team, the collective becomes more important there. If I have to sacrifice some personal benefit when in the interest of the group, I will do that, because ultimately it is the group that is going to look after me in future. The second thing that Hofstede study found was very clear in the clearly categorized and in the different categories was the power distance. With this something we discussed few minutes ago, and this is the extent and acceptance of unique unequal distribution of power. So we assume that power is distributed unequally, and we have just decided reason, or we have justification for believing that it is okay, power is distributed unequally, and we accept this justification, and it is there, we see, we believe in it, we trusted it, and that happen this some society. In other societies people feel that everything should be similar. They're not really similar, but it should be proportionate to your ability, to your immediate contribution to the environment. So you should only get what you have earned and not really be promoted. This because you're next in line for pro proportion, but promoted because you had something to show, and such like that you thought of what you are desisted. You should be higher power because you have just grown, you are spent years, number of years here in the organization, and a person who cannot contribute as much as you should be allowed to interact with you should be given the same status, because the person is making significant contribution, even though in some manner it may be quantifiably less than the noise. So that is power distance. Uncertainty avoidance is the extent to which people are comfortable or uncomfortable dealing with the unknown. So in some societies people are always prepared, and it doesn't has to be national. Please do not start thinking about nationality, which country is more, which country is less. No one. I'm the armed forces in our country, in any country, I always prepared. So they are no there. This is the cruder example. Means the army of one country is more stronger, or army of other country is more stronger. But some senior proprieties listing and dating that this may not really apply, but anyway I seriously feel that can be linked, because the armed forces are of any country, are this is one profession where risk is accepted. Okay, it's part of the job. There is a risk in that kind of job, in like army. So you have to be prepared at all time. You do not know what is coming when, and so they are not trying to avoid uncertainty. They have taken all precautionary in measure to deal with uncertainty as it comes. Now in some societies people feel that we should do everything to avoid uncertainty. We should plan for the future. We should forego instant gratification in the interest of the future. We should not take risk. We should take every calculated risk, if any, even though it means less achievement. Means we are following the instant gratification. So that is really what it is dealing with. We are just not comfortable dealing with the unknown, so we will only approach what is known to us. We will only accept what is known to us, and if something unknown comes, God help us. So it is not that bad. It is if we'll think and you have a difference that in turn influence, we do their business, starting term influences, and how they deal with the people in the environment, that influences what the manner in which they communicate with their peers, co-workers. So that is this masculinity and femininity. This is the extent of emphasis on competitiveness, assertiveness, achievement, and money, the traits that are not essentially it to be masculine. And the very strict notion people feel that in some societies is very clear, strict distinction between what is masculine, feminine, assertiveness, competitiveness, the achievement, money, as to be traditionally supposed to be domain as women. And some societies women are being accepted, women with these traits are accepted very naturally in other societies. There are traits better, this not yet being accepted. Even it is we don't say that it's right or what is wrong, what is right, because we know these societies that feel desire exclusive traits of women also have very clear, for example, roles defined for both the genders. Okay, so it simplifies or organize the society, because the division of labor is very clear, and that again as soon benefit. So I'm not saying, I'm not classifying these things into good or bad. Okay, so feminine has different power and masculine has different power. Okay, and it may happen somewhere they are considered as equal. Okay, so I'm just telling you our societies can be different. The other thing that Hofstede study discovered was long-term orientation that was added later after more countries were extraordinary, more thought western to the society. Okay, and this was the extent of emphasis on thrift and perseverance. Do we save money? Do we save our resources in interest of the future, or do we blow it overlap, or do we use it overlap? Because today that matter, what matter future will bring, what it will bring. So this is another thing the society are very clearly different on, and in some societies instant gratification is encouraged. You are encouraged to live life to it is fullest. So there is a Hindi song that goes like सोचना क्या जो भी होगा सोचा जाएगा, something which is why you need to this. So people who do not understand Hindi, I hope you understand very well. You do not need to think whatever will happen does in English song. Okay, whatever will be the future is not ours to see. So your life, you live life today, and then tomorrow is tomorrow. And but in other society you plan for the future, you perceive, you store your resources, and you save for any day, because it can come at some point. If if it doesn't, when we are old, and you can use of the money for paramedical, for our hygiene. This for our hygiene we use it, that saved money. But now just joke, means it is a shift that you sort, you save and spend a little more wisely rather would in other societies. So that is something that society usually enthusiasm on or differing on how to save the money. Means we may make categories that in some societies we save money and spend money wisely, and in other societies we save money, they can't save money. We make the difference by observing our Indian society or foreign countries. Okay, so the other study that is very related to the study of by Professor Ashkenazi Schwarz, and his study was conducted between 1985 and 2005. Have got this information from the website, whereas found a presentation by Professor Schwarz. You can go to this and you can see the presentation yourself. The study was conducted on 43,135 people belonging to 76 cultural groups living in 74 countries. So you can see all these studies, it's exploded full. It is exploded for lot of information, and then come to the categories. Okay, according to Professor Shaw's study, just come again to the concepts. According to Shaw's study, there are seven broad issues, seven broad cultural values that distinguish people, that make people different from each other, or the people, seven broad categories that people believe for and unto. And the first one here is the conservatism, conservationalism. Okay, conservationalism is the extent to which the status quo is emphasized, and this means that this is essential thing. Okay, so it is a cultural emphasis and maintenance of status quo proprietary, and these traits of actions and inclination that might thrift solitary group or the traditional order, which is social order, respect for traditional family scrutiny, security, respect for tradition, then respect for traditional family security or wisdom, and we say that the opposite pole of this dimensional described culture in which person is viewed as autonomous, bounded entity who finds meaning on his or her uniqueness, who seeks to express his or her own internal attribute, which include preferences, trade feelings, and motives, is encouraged to do so. Okay, means in our family, some uh, previous job we carry forward as it is. Okay, because of cultural emphasis. So putting it very simply, this is very closely links to Hofstede division of individualism versus collectivism. When we say conservationism, we are, of course it is not the same, but it is linked. Okay, the theories concepts of Hofstede and Schwarz are linked somewhere. So conservationalism is we will keep things as they are. You know, we there are reason. So why things are being there are, and we see no reason to change them. And the opposite differences that some society in some society people focused more on the individual creativity, uniqueness of individual. Okay, so how this uniqueness changes the social order, changes the social environment, changes in manner we respond to our environment, and in turn the manner in which the environment responds to us. So essentially we are looking at the dynamic or non-dynamic nature, or the speed at which the environment, or the speed at which the change in occurring in our environment because of our individual action. So that is conservationalism. So some societies size uh, emphasize the fact that the community should move as a whole. We there is a, if there is change, it should happen because community is a whole needs to happen, and there will be very slow. The other society believe that individual, the unique, they bring with them individual unique traits that attribute everything. So if the change, we will never change. If there is change, we will never change. It's fine to let them change. We are not ready to accept that change. We feel that let it be changed there. So because of environment is dynamic, means something is changing, changing is going on, changes are happening in the environment and it's dynamic. So intellectual are atomic. Environment is dynamic and intellectual atomic. Intellectual autonomy is the extent on curiosity, creativity, and independent intellectual ideas, which is in certain societies, individuals are given the freedom to think, to be curious, to be creative, to develop individual intellectual ideas. In other society, they are confine of individual are considered part of the system. So whatever they should contribute to the overall benefit or overall growth or overall welfare of the environment, that they are part of, that is intellectual autonomy. Okay, so let us stop for a while. We may again discuss in next video lecture. Till then, thank you. We will discuss again in next video lecture. Thank you.